Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tirabhanachare Yamuna Tirabhanachare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Jaya Gopidana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tirabhanachare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Nitai Gora Haribo, 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 Gora Haribo. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Yagya ki jai, Shri Radha Madhavasta Sakya Vrinda Giriraj Govardhan ki jai, Shri Gauranga Mahaprabhu ki jai, Shri Shri Panchatattva ki jai, Shri Shri Prahlad Nrsimhadev ki jai, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees, Nitai Gaur Premanande. Hare Krishna. So with the blessings of all the Vaishnavas present here and online, we'll try to read from the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 22, the marriage of Kardama Muni and Devahūtyāḥ, text 21. Om Gyantamirannasya Gyananjana Shalokaya Chakshurunmiritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadam Mayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyavacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Śrīmate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Bhutay Mat Pirema Proibur Nirmay Kshatir Muju Purusha Bhunkte Gunan Sada Sada Satmaka Vankrishishta Bhagavan Vacham Sime Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya Maitreya Vāca Maitreya Vāca Sa ugra-dhanvan iyat evābabhāṣe Sa ugra-dhanvan iyat evābabhāṣe Āsīt tūṣṇīm aravinda-nābham Āsīt tūṣṇīm aravinda-nābham dhiyopagṛhṇan smita-śobhitena dhiyopagṛhṇan smita-śobhitena mukhena ceto lulubhe devahūtyāḥ mukhena ceto lulubhe devahūtyāḥ Maitreya Vāca Sa ugra-dhanvan iyad evābabhāṣe Sa ugra-dhanvan iyad evābabhāṣe Āsīt tūṣṇīm aravinda-nābham Āsīt tūṣṇīm aravinda-nābham dhiyopagṛhṇan smita-śobhitena dhiyopagṛhṇan smita-śobhitena mukhena ceto lulubhe devahūtyāḥ mukhena ceto lulubhe devahūtyāḥ Maitreya Vāca Sa ugra-dhanvan iyat evābabhāṣe Āsīt tūṣṇīm aravinda-nābham dhiyopagṛhṇan smita-śobhitena mukhena ceto lulubhe devahūtyāḥ Please. tūṣṇīm aravinda-nābham Are we going to have this banging throughout the class? If anyone can ask them. Thank you. Somebody else? Maitreya uvāca.
ugra-dhanvan iyad evābabhāṣe āsīt tūṣṇīm aravinda-nābham dhiyopagṛhṇan smita-śobhitena mukhena ceto lulubhe devahūtyāḥ.
Ladies, please. ugra-dhanvan iyad evābabhāṣe āsīt tūṣṇīm aravinda-nābham dhiyopagṛhṇan smita-śobhitena mukhena ceto lulubhe. Synonyms: Maitreya, the great sage Maitreya. Uvāca, said. Saha, he. Kardama. Ugra-dhanvan, O great warrior Vidura. Iyad, this much. Eva, only. Ābabhāṣe, spoke. Āsīt, became. Cha, and. Tūṣṇīm, silent. Aravinda-nābham, Lord Viṣṇu, whose navel is adorned by a lotus. Diya, by thought. Upagṛhṇan, ceasing. Smita-śobhitena, beautified by his smile. Mukhena, by his face. Ceto, the mind. Lulubhe, was captivated. Devahūtyāḥ, of devahūti. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Śrīla Prabhupada Ki Jai. Śrī Maitreya said, O great warrior Vidura, the sage Kardama said this much only, and then became silent, thinking of his worshipable Lord Viṣṇu, who has a lotus on his navel. As he silently smiled, his face captured the mind of Devahūti, who began to meditate upon the great sage. Purport. It appears that Kardama Muni was fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness, because as soon as he became silent, he at once began to think of Lord Viṣṇu. That is the way of Krishna consciousness. Pure devotees are so absorbed in thought of Krishna that they have no other engagement, although they may seem to think or act otherwise. They are always thinking of Krishna. The smile of such a Krishna-conscious person is so attractive that simply by smiling he wins so many admirers, disciples, and followers. Hare Krishna. In so many purports, Srila Prabhupada speaks about himself without any reference, because that was him who won so many people just by smile, Krishna conscious smile. But this is an amazing verse from Srimad Bhagavatam. Normally, as many of you have experienced who are giving classes, it's like a gambling. It depends which verse you would have to speak on. Sometimes it's just a secondary verse, and you have to speak for an hour on that one. So you have to really think. But this verse is on the most important subject in Krishna consciousness, that is becoming Krishna conscious. Being fully absorbed in Krishna as we can see from Kardama Muni's amazing example. And this is not something which will ever happen in this material world, that, there is a marriage proposal, and the man prayed for, nice wife, and then the father of the girl brings her to him and asks him to accept her hand, so his wish is fulfilled, and he says, yeah, it's fine, I will take her, because I understand it's the Lord's arrangement, paraphrasing what was being referred to in the previous verse, and then immediately goes into meditation. That's not something which happens in the material world, but this is pure Krishna consciousness, because he understands it's all the Lord's arrangement, and he wants to do what he wants to do, meaning to enter into family life, not for his pleasure, but to fulfill the instruction of his father, Lord Brahma, and please the Supreme Lord. And so that's why he goes into meditation, he goes into trance. And thinking of Krishna, this is the subject matter for today's discussion, the only subject matter for us forever, because this is the sum and substance of Krishna consciousness. And I'm pretty sure that many of you know very well what is the essence of Krishna consciousness, as it is explained in Vishnu Purana, I think. And so those of you who know this verse, please let's chant it all together. Smartavyo satatam Vishnu vismritavyo na jatuchi sarvavithi nishedam syur etayor eva kinkaraha. I guess many of you should know the meaning of this verse. Smartavyo satatam Vishnu, which means always remember Krishna or Vishnu. Vismritavyo na jatuchi, and never forget him. Sarvavidhi nisheda, all the rules and regulations of the scripture, syu etayor eva kinkara, they are only the servants of this main principle. And those of you who were present at the last class I gave, I was mentioning that there is the most often repeated statement in Bhagavad Gita, which is renunciation, detachment from the fruits of the labor. But this probably is the second most repeated statement in the Bhagavad Gita, which is to think of Krishna. There are dozens of statements, not just statements, but entire chapters, few chapters in Bhagavad Gita dedicated to this topic. Anyone can think of where from Krishna starts elaborating on this subject, importance of thinking of him in Bhagavad Gita? Which chapter? Seventh chapter he elaborates, but he begins in chapter 6. In chapter 6 he says, Yomam pashyati sarvatra, sarvam chamai pashyati, sachaham na pranashami, sachame na pranashati. Those who see me everywhere and everything in me are never lost to me, and I will never lose them. And so from chapter 7 onwards, Bhagavad Gita is very interesting, that first there is a statement, then Krishna elaborates on this, and then elaborates even more, and then comes to the conclusion. And of course, the ultimate conclusion is given in which chapter? 18, which is famous verse. Now that before Sarvadharman, there is also very famous verse 1865. Man mana bhava mad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mam evaishyasi. That twice it is repeated in chapter 9 and in chapter 18, same statement. So man mana, is it easy to think of Krishna always? Yes or no? Yes? For some, very easy. Who finds it difficult to be always absorbed in Krishna? So what to do? Krishna says, Bhava mad bhakto. Then if you cannot think of me, do some service. Bhava mad bhakto. No, actually before that, mad bhakta, that's elaborated in chapter 12. Develop devotional qualities. Which is also not very easy to develop devotional qualities. Then what? Madhyaji, serve me. Even that is not always easy. But then the last statement is very easy one. Mam namaskuru. Do namaskar. Bow down to me. Offer me some respect. So Krishna starts with the top level and then progressively goes to very simple. Something we can all do easily. But the goal is manmana, to be always absorbed in Krishna, to be focused on Krishna all the time, which actually is considered to be life. That as long as we think of Krishna, we consider to be alive. But when we forget about Krishna, then we're as good as dead spiritually. And I hope everyone is interested in this subject. And of course, we see examples of pure devotees, such as Srila Prabhupada. Interesting statement. In the end of the purport, we'll read it one more time. The smile of such a Krishna-conscious person is so attractive that simply by smiling he wins so many admirers, disciples and followers. There is famous episode, Srila Prabhupada is taking morning walk in London early. There are no people on the street, only one policeman is there. And policeman starts running after the devotees and catches up with Shyamasundar Prabhu, who is asking, who is that elderly man? And Shyamasundar Prabhu says, well, this is my guru, my spiritual master. And the Bobby says, well, that's amazing. This man is shining like a sun. So even outside people could recognize Srila Prabhupada's exalted position. So just when someone is coming in touch with such a pure devotee, that's enough to become Krishna conscious, in the same way as anything which comes in touch with fire becomes fire. So pure devotee burns up all the impurities in the hearts of those who are connected with him. And he says, smiling. Of course, we might say that Srila Prabhupada was not smiling too often, right? He appeared grave, but it doesn't mean he was not happy. There was one instance, one disciple showed Prabhupada's picture and he said, you seem to be pretty depressed on this picture. Prabhupada said, "Which picture? Can I see?" Then he looked at the picture, he said, "What are you talking about? I'm in ecstasy here." So it's not always easy to recognize ecstasy of pure devotee. But then it was regularly bursting through, right? Just this morning I was, while taking a shower, was listening to Prabhupada's class, and then he had questions and answers. That was hilarious. That one disciple is asking, "Srila Prabhupada, if a devotee by a chance falls down, will Krishna protect him? Will devotee not go to hell because of his fall down?" And Prabhupada looks at him, pauses, and says, Devotee never falls down." So, just few words, such a huge meaning behind, right? So, and everyone's laughing. So, yeah, and sometimes, Srila Prabhupada was amazing in cracking jokes, as some of us heard. And it's like one lady disciple wants to make a compliment during the morning walk, comes to Srila Prabhupada, says, "Srila Prabhupada, you look so wonderful this morning." And Prabhupada looks at her and he says, "Only this morning?" Etc. So he was absorbed in spiritual bliss, but because he had the position of guru and leader, he had to, be grave also. But it was not compromising with his spiritual bliss, which was deep inside. And so this is how he was single-handedly making so many people into Krishna conscious, because everybody wants to be blissful. And so they could feel that this man has the key to the storehouse of bliss. And that's why, consciously or unconsciously, this feeling was there. I think Rameshwar Prabhu can confirm this, that there was this feeling that he has the key to something very, very special. And so, why devotee is so happy? The answer is obvious, because he associates with the happiest person in the entire creation and beyond. Who is the happiest person of all? Who is the personified bliss? Krishna, yes, Madhav. We can see that Krishna is never grave, right? He is always blissful, he is always smiling. Srila Prabhupada says, even when he fights with demons and kills demons, he is still smiling. You can say, but what about Nrsingadev? Roaring. But if you come close and look more attentively, he's actually smiling. Anyone noticed Nrsingadev smiling? So this roaring and all, it's just a play, just his pastime. And it's interesting how it's been described in the 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, the ultimate fight between Nrsingadev and Hiranyakashipu. And actually, I'm asking this question regularly, and very few devotees can tell what was the method, you can say, very unusual method, how Nrsingadev stopped Hiranyakashipu from fighting altogether. At some point, Hiranyakashipu was very determined and was, kept charging at Nrsimhadev. But at some point he couldn't do that. And the question is, what did Nrsimhadev do to stop Hiranyakashipu from fighting? Anyone knows? Okay. No, before that. Anybody wants to know? What did Nrsimhadev do? Remember, he laughed. He just looked at Hiranyakashipu, and it's not, I never read that, but it's my, suspicion, you can say that. For Hiranyakashipu, of course, it was question of life and death. But for Nrsimhadev, it was just, entertainment to fight with this guy. So, he was enjoying the process. But Hiranyakashipu, even though he was pretty small comparing to Nrsimhadev, but his false ego was so huge, he was really seriously thinking that he has chances to defeat Nrsimhadev. And that's why he kept jumping on him. And Nrsimhadev just couldn't believe at some point, is he serious? And he just couldn't control himself and he laughed. But his laughter was so uproarious and so deafening that Hiranyakashipu was so scared. He couldn't just look at Nrsimhadev. He realized, Nrsimhadev was just, was just playing with him. And he closed his eyes out of horror. So, and, he couldn't fight. And after that, Nrsimhadev picked him up and put him on his lap and, as Radhanath Maharaj likes to say, performed a first heart surgery in the history of the universe. Open heart surgery. So, but yes, that it's a nice example how Krishna, in any position, he is always blissful. Anandamayo bhyasat, right? This is what Vedanta Sutra says. And if we are totally absorbed in Krishna, then we can manifest. We can also have access to that unlimited bliss, which doesn't depend on external circumstances at all. Like Prahlad Maharaj, externally he was in very miserable condition, but internally he was blissful because he was meditating on the Lord. And so this is, I suppose, the biggest stimuli how we can stimulate to be focused on Krishna, to be fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness, because that can give us the experience of bliss which exceeds any types of material happiness. Anyone wants to be blissful to such an extent that no matter what's happening externally can upset it or can stop that. So then the question, a big question I wanted to ask you, what to do? How do we become totally absorbed in Krishna consciousness? Anyone wants to comment? Janmashtami Prabhu.
There's a lecture Prabhupada gave in Vedabad in 72. He's talking about the feast week. There's a lecture Prabhupada gave in 72 in Ahmedabad. And he's talking about the peace formula. And then he goes further and he says, gives an analogy. This says that a leader has many servants, and the responsibility of the servants is to please the leader. So similarly, as devotees, our responsibility is to please Krishna. And when Krishna's pleased, then we're pleased. So that's where the bliss comes from. We really dedicate our lives to trying to please the parampara and Krishna. And then the bliss comes. That's my understanding, and that's Prabhupada makes this point repeatedly.
Yeah, that's also coming in Jiva Goswami's Sandarbhas, that the only source of our happiness should be the understanding that we somehow made Krishna happy, contributed to Krishna's happiness. Very good. Anyone else? Prabhu?
Detachment from the worldly affairs.
Okay. Detachment from the sources of misery. Someone behind, if you could come up front. Yes.
Hare Krishna. So when you come to Krishna consciousness, Prabhupada, we are told that we are here for self-realization, because in the Sri Upanishad, Prabhupada says, all kinds of incompleteness are experienced due to an incomplete understanding of the complete whole. And Lord Chaitanya says, as asked by Sanatana Goswami, that Jivara Sarupa Hoy Nitya Krishna Das. It's only when we are in a state of Das that we can become happy and fully Krishna conscious.
Okay. Get reinstated in our original position. Yes, please.
Hearing and chanting about Krishna all the time.
Very good. Hearing and chanting. Prabhu?
Same thing, Maharaj. Hearing, good hearing leads to good chanting, and then good chanting that inspires remember.
After chanting, remember Krishna. Very good, yes. Actually, this is the purpose of hearing and chanting, to come to the level of smaranam, thinking of Krishna. And there is one particular, we can say, method in our practice which actually helps us think of Krishna. Anyone knows what it is? See Krishna in everything. Okay, that's very advanced level. Janmashtami Prabhu, microphone. Question, we have a method or technique which actually helps us to focus on Krishna.
Give our highest priority to chanting our japa every morning.
Japa, good.
All throughout the day, we'll be remembering Krishna.
Okay, Mataji? I don't know if we can, pass the microphone.
Reading about his pastimes.
Reading about pastimes, okay, good. Anyone else? Associate with devotees, okay. Well, so many things, but there is one specific aspect of our practice which can help us to focus on Krishna, and that is what we are practicing every day in the temple room, because temple has deities, and deities are there. Why deities are there? To help us to remember Krishna, to help us think of Krishna, help us develop our relationship with Krishna, because seeing Krishna everywhere and in everything, that's very high level. But seeing Krishna in the deity, that's much easier. Actually, there are 4 progressive stages in our spiritual development, which are highlighted, for example, by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his Harinama Chintamani. Nama, Rupa, Guna and Lila. So it all starts with the name. Whether it is Japa or Sankirtan, But then, next progressive stage is Rupa. Actually, deity is an expansion of the name, if we think about it, right? And then if we absorb our mind in the Lord in the form of a deity and start serving the Lord, start developing our relationship with Him, then we can start realizing wonderful qualities in Krishna. I'm sure many of the devotees here have experience of deity worship, whether it is temple deity or deity at home. Anyone has experience in deity worship, one way or the other? Anyone felt that it actually helps you to understand Krishna more when you start serving the deity, right? And so by understanding and appreciating the Lord in the form of a deity, gradually what's happening? The ultimate level is lila, that we can become so absorbed in the Lord that we'll have access into His pastimes. So that's why it's very important aspect which our acharyas and Srila Prabhupada gave us. And in here, in our global headquarters, we have mind-blowing, amazing deities. How many of you have the experience that these deities are not really deities, but this is Krishna who pretends to be a deity? If anyone wants to share some realizations, you can do so. Microphone we have. Okay, Rameshwar Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Maharaj. When we were producing the Chaitanya Charitamrita and the 5th canto in 17 volumes, so I asked Srila Prabhupada, because we were so absorbed, we were barely eating, barely sleeping, and people were falling asleep at their workstations for an hour or two, for 2 months. So I asked Srila Prabhupada, what category of devotional service is this? We're working to prepare your books. What is this? Which are the categories? He said, deity worship. And then he said, and when the book is produced, your mission, your service, your life and soul is to give it to everyone you see. That is Shravanam Kirtanam, that category. So in that way he described book distribution as the ultimate way of being absorbed in Krishna in so many different ways. Hare Krishna.
Yes, and books are also non-different from the deities, because, yeah, yes, yeah. That's why in Vaishnava tradition we often have book instead of the deity, and worship book as non-different from Krishna. Mataji?
I have a little story how I realized Krishna was in the deity. I was going down for Ayurvedic treatment in Kottakkal, and on the plane, somehow or another, I forgot my deity. And in India, if you forget something, forget it. It's lost. So I reported the lost at the desk, and they say, well, we'll do our possible, but I knew it was impossible. So every day I was just crying. I realized that it's not marble, he's a person. I was missing my deity so much. 2 weeks passed by, And all of a sudden I have a call, and here is my deity. They found back my deity. And that was the turning point in my life where I really realized that deities are not marble.
Haribo! Wonderful story. Yeah. Yeah, deities can perform amazing pastimes, and of course the greatest love is love in separation. So they can, do that sometimes. But sometimes they, the Lord is adding something. There is a wonderful story from Russia where, devotees were worshipping Nrsingadev in the south of Russia, the place which is called Krasnodar. Sometimes devotees call it Krishnadar. So in that place there were many people coming, and because deity was nicely polished brass, some thieves, they thought this deity is made of gold, and at one point they broke into the temple at night and stole Nrsingadev from the altar and traveled all the way to the other side of the country. And they had no idea that in ISKCON all the temples are interlinked, and they thought, we'll sell it. Then after they thought it's gold, but then they checked it was not gold, so they thought, okay, at least we can sell this deity to some other Hindu temple, in the north, St. Petersburg. They went all the way to St. Petersburg. And they told the devotees, we have nice sculpture for worshipping, if you like. And then devotees in St. Petersburg, of course, knew that Nrsingadev was stolen from Krasnodar. But they didn't tell the thieves. They told, yes, please bring him. Bring this sculpture, we'll buy. And so when they came, they were, captured by police. And devotees were very happy that Nrsingadev came back. They said, please give us the deity. But the police said, but the deity doesn't belong to you, doesn't belong to your temple. It belongs to another place. It was stolen from that place. And we have to give to the owner. And the devotees said, but how will you make them know that you have the deity? And they said, we'll go on the TV central channel at a prime time, and we'll make an announcement, such and such, sculpture was stolen, so we want owners to come and claim. So, and then they did that. Just imagine, Nrsingadev gives darshan to 140 million people over the central TV. And then he came back. So Nrsingadev had wonderful time, traveling across the country, gave darshan to over 100 million people on the central TV, and came back to the temple. Of course, but you can imagine the feelings of the devotees when they realized Nrsingadev was stolen, etc. So how much they prayed and how much they longed to bring him back. But eventually it came out that Lord had wonderful pastime. Actually, it very much reminds of this pastime when Nimai was stolen by two thieves, you remember? And they were thinking, okay, we'll take him to some secluded place, take him his jewels, etc. But in order to make sure that he doesn't cry, one of them was feeding him sandesh all the way. And Nimai was enjoying a ride, having nice sandesh, and then with his yoga maya he made them make full circle and come back. And they were saying, we'll bring you home, we'll bring you home. And Nimai was saying, yes, of course you're bringing me home. And then they finally came, and they realized that they actually came back to the original place. And then, Jagannath Mishra and Sachimata and all the other devotees were panicking, where is Nimai? And they started running to the thieves. And so they said, okay, we put him down and we ran away. But then, Jagannath Mishra was surprised. He said, Nimai, what happened? He said, these men, they actually brought me home. I was away, but they brought me home. And Jagannath Mishra said, what kind of, selfless people? They performed, they saved you, but they didn't even stay for us to thank you. So, Lord is amazing. He can perform so many wonderful pastimes and achieve so many goals. And yes, the deities can perform these wonderful pastimes. Actually, there are so many pastimes connected to Radha Madhav, Panchatattva, Nrsingadev, as we know. And these deities are so powerful because, one time I had a desire. Have you noticed that Panchatattva has unique position of hands in here? Nowhere else. I mean, Gaura-Nitāya, they normally, hold their hands up, palms upwards. But here you can see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu standing with his palms facing everyone. What he is doing? He is blessing everybody. With both hands he is blessing. So, I just prayed. One time I had the desire to preach all over the world and travel and preach. And I just asked Lord Chaitanya, could you please give me your blessings? And I could just feel, with both hands he blessed me. 14 round the world trips was just a beginning of that. And so, amazingly powerful deities. And you can see Nitai and Gadadhar on both sides. What position of their hands? They show like this. So, they show, both of them are showing at Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's feet with one hand, and another hand is showing upwards. So, basic idea, you take shelter at his feet and you'll be up there in no time, right? And then Advaita Acharya, that he is on the side, and one hand is down and the other hand is directed towards Nitai Gaur. So basically, what it means, he uplifts everybody and sends them to Nitai Gaur. And of course, Shiva's Pandit, with folded hand, he's showing that humility is the topmost Vaishnava quality. So, these are very amazing deities. What to speak of? So many other things. And we can get totally absorbed in Krishna consciousness just in association with Shri Shri Radha Madhava Astasakya Vrinda. There are so many things. Some of them are very confidential, so very confidential pastimes are happening on the altars. And if we just pay attention, we'll understand so many mind-blowing things about Krishna and his relationship with his devotees. So, that's my little experience that deity worship really helps to understand Krishna better and appreciate him and become fully absorbed in his service, which of course leads us to Krishna Lila eventually. Hare Krishna. So we still have few more minutes. If anyone has any comments, suggestions, complaints. Janmashtami Brahma, microphone.
No complaints.
Okay.
Just a comment. Very interactive. Regarding deity worship, back in 2009, while the GBC meetings were going on, I had a realization this was the biggest year that we'd had with the Mayapur Institute thus far. And I had a realization that it would get bigger and bigger, but my anarthas were blocking that because I was in that position of being the director. And so I went to Pankajangri Prabhu, who was at that time, fully absorbed in worshipping Lord Nrsimhadev. And I said, Pankajangri Prabhu, can you do a full day puja to Lord Nrsimhadev to remove all the anarthas from my heart? And he looked at me and he said, Janmashtami Prabhu, you want me to do a full day puja to Lord Nrsimhadev to remove all the anarthas from your heart? And I said, yes. I couldn't understand why he was... Then he said the same thing again. Do you want me to to do a full day puja to Nrsimhadev to remove all the anarthas from your heart? I said, yes, Prabhu. And he said it a third time. And so he did it. And it was remarkable, because there was a plan that I would step down from management, like in a couple years. And then Bhakti Brihat Bhagavat Swami and Atul came to me, and they said, this is 5 days after the puja, you should step down now. And, since that time, it's just been one intense anartha nivritti episode after another. But it was very, very personal. So I'm actually quite thankful to Lord Nrsimhadev, and every day when I take darshan, I say, please keep removing all those anarthas. So a very personal, loving exchange with Lord Nrsimhadev.
So, as we understand, you're going to soon become totally transparent. We can see through you.
Let's hope so.
Okay. All right. Mataji.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I have a question regarding deity worship at home. So they say that we have to take second initiation before we start doing that. Can you just give a light on that?
Yes, normally to worship Krishna or Shalagram or Giriraj, we require second initiation, but there is one exception to the rule, and that is worshipping Gaura-Nitai. Because some of you know that Srila Prabhupada told one of his, actually his first Scottish disciple, Dhananjaya Prabhu, you have to start producing Gaura-Nitai deities at Mass, and we're going to sell them on the streets together with books. And Dhananjaya Prabhu was shocked. He said, how, like, these are deities, how can we give deities to meat eaters and drunkards and all kinds of people? And Srila Prabhupada said, Gaura-Nitai are so merciful, they just have to enter their homes and they will purify them. They will make them into devotees. That was Srila Prabhupada's plan. And then Dhananjaya Prabhu said, but how do we encourage people to buy deities? And Prabhupada said, you just tell them these are good luck dolls. And in order to get good luck, they just have to burn one incense stick and say Hare Krishna. Show the, incense stick to the deity and say Hare Krishna, and that's going to be enough to give them good luck. So Prabhupada's creativity was mind-blowing. But, this was his belief that worshipping Gaura-Nitai requires zero qualification. Just have to start, because they are so merciful.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Yeah. We'll be finishing last question, and then we're going to have a nice, sweet ending for everybody. If you want to stay on, we'll have special surprise for you in the end.
Хорошо, я буду говорить по-русски, если позволите.
Okay, I can translate.
Вот совсем недавно, на днях, премьер-министр Индии Нарендра Моди вручил Бхагавад-гиту, как она есть, Шрила Прабхупады, президенту России Владимиру Путину. Раньше мы обсуждали, мы вручали Бхагавад-гиту, как она есть, Шрила Прабхупады на английском языке, на самиш, на бенгали, на хинди, разным великим людям Индии. губернатором, главным министром, министром штатов, министру культуры Индии. И теперь что? Надо понимать, что надоело Нарендра Моди смотреть на все это, и он решил уже Путину уже сказать, ну все, хватит уже, теперь мы вам будем. Как вы это прокомментируете?
So the question is that yesterday, Russian President Putin, he came to India and he met Narendra Modi and he gave him Bhagavad Gita as it is, in Russian language. So Prabhu is wondering, how did that happen? Of course, every miracle has a rational explanation, and that rational explanation is that Russian devotees contacted their Indian colleagues and they requested to pass on Russian Bhagavad Gita to Narendra Modi so that he would give it to Putin, and he did that. So this was devotee's request, and surprisingly he fulfilled that because it's not. But, because he takes us very seriously, luckily, Narendra Modi. And so it was not the first Bhagavad Gita given to Putin. Few devotees already gave him Russian Bhagavad Gitas, but hopefully it was never given by the president of the country as a gift. So hopefully now he will take it seriously and start reading it. But thank you. So, special surprise is Mahaprasad from Sri Radha Madhava for all of you, because the Vedic principle is Madhurena Samapayat. So we have to finish on a sweet note, and we have nice Sri Radha Madhava sweets. If anyone's interested, you can start your breakfast by Mahaprasad. Нету?
Srila Prabhupada ki jai. His Holiness Bhakti Rasayana Sagar Swami Maharaj ki.
Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Посчитай, сколько человек примерно. Хватит ли по одной штуке?